Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to begin now. Welcome, everyone, to the Lions Goffstown Candidates Night. We're glad you've come. I'd like to start off the activities by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll follow along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to the school for allowing us to use this room, to the candidates who've given of their time to be here and present their positions on the issues, and the audience itself for coming. I understand that we're all busy, and it's nice to see that there are people who are willing to take time to devote it to the good of the community. Also, I'd like to thank Goffstown Television for televising this event. The Lions were started in 1917. They're now the world's largest service organization. 1.35 million members around the world and 46,000 clubs in 200 countries. They're devoted to sight and hearing, to improve sight and prevent blindness. The Goffstown Club helps support the Lions Sight and Hearing Foundation. We perform vision screening at the schools. We accept eyeglass donations, and we also accept hearing aids for recycling to needy people. We give educational scholarships to Goffstown High School students. We run the popcorn stand. We have our holiday craft fair, and we sell Christmas trees at the Goffstown popcorn stand corner. I hear a yay from that. So if there are any of you who are interested in this, we are certainly accepting members at any time, and we'd love to have you come to a meeting. We promote the principles of good government and good citizenship, and this is one of our activities in that regard. And with that, I will turn this over to Ken Lawrence, who will be our moderator for this evening.
Thank you, Alan. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Hard to believe that this is the third year they have asked me to be the moderator. Time just flies. It is hard to believe, Fred. And the funny thing is, when I was contacting a lot of the candidates, I know you received a letter, but I was also doing some phone calls. There are a few who would have really liked to have been here tonight, but they were home pretty sick with the flu. One of them, who will remain nameless, was very game about it. I can come there. I have my inhaler. I'm dead serious. I say, you know what, do everyone a favor and stay home and get well, and so you're not here coughing and sneezing on everyone. I think the second most important thing, which I heard from some people when I let them know I'd be emceeing again, they were very glad to hear that. And they said, we hope you have a good joke again this year. So especially Scott Gross, who I ran into, that was his priority. He said if I didn't, he told me the joke that he had, and it's a good thing I have a better one, Scott. That's all I can tell you. So anyway, but it is great to be here this evening. What we're going to do, something just a little bit different, is we will call the candidates up here, and if there's more than one candidate for the office that is here, I'll ask you to come up and all be seated, and I will call you up one by one to the podium. You have 3 or 4 minutes to make your speech. When you are done, I'll ask everyone to remain seated. We will take questions from the audience. The questions will be related to the office itself. If you feel you need to speak to the candidate for any other reason, please, after the event, feel free to speak to the candidate at that time. So this way, if there's a question, all the candidates can answer that particular question itself that has to do with the office. I do want to remind everyone that at the end of tonight's candidates night, there will be a Selectmen's debate. You are all invited to that. There will be no questions for that. It will just be a debate among the people running for the Selectmen's office. So everyone is invited to that also. So, I do want to send out a thank you before we get started. Once again, someone who just makes this run really smooth as far as I'm concerned, getting in touch with everyone, touching base, and this makes my job a lot easier, and that's Kathy Ball back there. Thank you very much again, Kathy, for all your help. It's really appreciated. All right, a lot of you, in your hands, you have a pamphlet that is from the Goffstown Library. And what I'd like to do right now is call up the library director, Diane Hathaway, to say a few words about the great job she did putting together this pamphlet. Diane?
Thanks, Ken. I take no credit for this pamphlet. My staff, I have an awesome staff. They spent many intensive hours putting this together in a short timetable. Thank you to Kathy for providing the information so we could contact each candidate. Thank you to the Lions Club for allowing us to partner again this year. This is a fabulous community event, and I think that our partnership makes it a stronger event and provides information to the community that's important for the election. For those who are at home and don't have one of these right now, there will be some paper copies available at Town Hall in the Selectmen's office. There will be some at the Goffstown Library, and it will be available as a PDF off our website. And while you're on our website, take a look at all the great resources that we offer the community, some things that you might be surprised to find. So take a look. I'm always at the library. Well, mostly I'm always at the library. If you have any questions about our services, give me a call or send me an email. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Diane. All right, how we will be doing this evening is Kathy had printed out a list of the offices and candidates, so I am going strictly by that, how it showed up on my email. And we're going to start with the Selectmen. So all candidates who are here tonight for Selectmen, if they could please come up and have a seat right here. What I will be doing, just so everyone knows, and I don't want anyone to think I'm not paying attention, I am clocking this on my cell phone, so I will be looking at my cell phone. I'm not checking text or emails or anything, or on Facebook with Fred or anything like that. I'm actually working. So anyway, so we'll get started, and first we'll have Collis Adams.
Thank you and good evening, folks. For whatever reason, I didn't seem to get the email notice for the write-up in the brochure, so I apologize for that. But as you can see, I do have a face, and I do have positions on things, and I guess I'll just have to cover in the next 4 minutes what I would have said in text in the brochure. But I want to welcome you all here, and good evening. I want to thank the Lions Club for sponsoring this event, and I'd like to recognize and appreciate the other candidates and attendees who are here tonight, as well as all the folks who may be joining us via Goffstown Television. I'm here tonight running for re-election to the Board of Selectmen. I am an incumbent. I'm a 30-plus year resident of Goffstown, living up on Patty Hill, just about a mile up from the center of town. During my tenure on the Board of Selectmen, I've worked hard trying to bring forth balanced budgets to the taxpayers. I have negotiated numerous union contracts and that were in the best interest of the taxpayers. I've been instrumental during my time on the Board of Selectmen in hiring strong, qualified, and respected department heads, town administrator, chief of police, DPW director, Parks and Rec director. And I have supported our town forces throughout the years. They do a great job for the town of Goffstown and need to be recognized for all of the good work that they do. I've also guided the town through some difficult times and have been responsive to taxpayers and all of the citizens of Goffstown. Some may recall issues like Plan Penardville and the Main Street reconstruction project. It's quite contentious and difficult issues, but helped as a Board of Selectmen to navigate through those difficult times to bring things to what I think were very successful and appropriate outcomes. So I have 25 years of community service and activism. It starts not long after I moved into Goffstown. My first experience was with the Maple Avenue Elementary School Halloween Parade. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Halloween Parade. Well, not long after I moved to town, the SAU is going to do away with the Halloween Day Parade. So myself and a number of other parents and business leaders got together and mobilized. They're young and old alike. And we were able to compel the SAU to continue this distinctively unique Goffstown tradition that continues to this day. So that was really my foray into Goffstown politics, if you will. And it had a successful outcome, and I was very proud that we can maintain that tradition today. It is really cool and is something that I think you not find equaled anywhere else, probably in the state of New Hampshire. It wasn't long after that I volunteered to serve on the Conservation Commission and served a number of years. In fact, I still serve on the Conservation Commission to this day. While I was on the Conservation, I served as vice chair and was involved in the design and directed construction of the Glen Lake waterfront reconstruction. Some of you may remember that. That was back in the early 2000s. And if you remember what Glen Lake was like prior to that reconstruction, it was an eyesore and it was a mess. However, I was able to secure a $64,000 grant from the state of New Hampshire. I was also able to mobilize volunteers and secure donations of materials and equipment so that project could come to fruition. If you've been down there, you'll notice that there are picnic areas, there are walking areas, there is a boat ramp, there is parking, there are carry-down areas for kayaks and canoes, and there was also a boat trailer parking across the street. So that was all part of that project, and again, I think it was a very successful and helped add to the character of Goffstown. And by the way, that was all done at no cost to Goffstown taxpayers, zero. It was all done through either the grant or donations. So I'm going to share with you a summary of some of my governmental and civic accomplishments over the last 25 years. As I mentioned, I've served on the Conservation Commission and as chair of the Conservation Commission. I've served on the Planning Board and as chair of the Planning Board. I've served on the Planning Board Subcommittee for development of what's known as the Village Commercial District that resulted in zoning changes to minimize lot frontage, minimize lot size, and lessen parking restrictions or requirements in the downtown area so as to attract small businesses into the downtown. And this has been very successful and has allowed businesses like Apocatha and others to move into downtown, establish some businesses there without the overburdening restrictions of the general zoning ordinances which apply throughout the remainder of town. I've also served on the Parks and Rec Commission, Sewer Commission, Solid Waste Commission, and Master Plan updates. I'm sure I probably have overlooked a few along the way, but suffice to say, I've engaged myself wholeheartedly into to Goffstown as a community. On the other side, the community side, I've been a tri-town soccer coach, a Little League coach. I've served on the Goffstown Junior Baseball Board of Directors as the umpire-in-chief. I've been a scout leader and a Crispin's House tournament volunteer. I put both my children through Goffstown Public Schools and demonstrated strong support for our schools over the years at all levels. I've been employed at all levels of government, local, state, and federal. I know government operations from all perspectives, and I think this is one of the greatest strengths that I bring to the Board of Selectmen is the knowledge that I know of government and how it works and how to get things done within the confines of the government process. Prior to that, right now I'm working for the State Department of Environmental Services. I have been for 25 years, but prior to that, I was a small business owner with a private engineering consulting firm, so I know what it means to meet payroll and have employees depend upon you in the small business context, and I think that's important in a community like Goffstown. Finally, and most notably, I was a 2017 Environmental Law Institute single national award winner for state, tribal, and local program development and leadership. And I'm very proud of that and consider that to be my crowning success story in my career. So in closing, I believe I possess the knowledge and experience that comes with years of dedicated service to our community, and I will bring that knowledge and experience to the Board of Selectmen for the next 3 years. I humbly ask for your support and your vote on March 13th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Collis. Next is Kelly Boyer.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to follow Collis's thanks to everybody for being here this evening, specifically the Goffstown Lions Club, GTV, and the Goffstown Library for helping to put this all together. Thank you all very much. So this evening I had a very formal speech written, and I realized in reflecting on what brought me back to this point, to be talking in here in front of you again today, was that I just kind of wanted to talk to you about where I come from, what I'm trying to do, and the things that I'm trying to accomplish. So just a quick bit about how I got to New Hampshire. It's Kelly Boyer's autobiography, chapter 1. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be quick with this part, I promise. So When I was in college, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and in college I decided that I wanted to do AmeriCorps when I completed my education. And AmeriCorps is a federally funded nonprofit organization similar to the Peace Corps, but in the United States. And I got stationed in Manchester, New Hampshire in 2008, so I've been in the state for 10 years. When my family and I were looking for a home, we really wanted to find a place where we could feel comfortable at any stage in life, and we found that place in Goffstown. And really happy to be a homeowner and proud to be a resident here. After we bought our house, I immediately started getting involved in local government as far as being an active participant, watching meetings, listening to the boards, and really trying to get a good grasp on what was going on. I came to the realization that I could potentially be valuable in this community, and as somebody invested in living the rest of my life here, I felt the need to step up and run for something. So I started talking to local residents who have been involved in politics, learning about all the different boards, researching warrant articles and RSAs, and really trying to do the homework so I could have a good basis for getting involved. And I think that I've accomplished that. In the past year, I've served on the budget committee and really dove into that. I've spent time meeting with all of the department heads and really trying to gain a good grasp on what their perspective, what their goals, and what they've been doing. My professional career in HR, I work at Elliott Hospital in Human Resources Management. It aligns almost perfectly with what the responsibilities of a board member is. I know that my diverse background and experience can bring something new to the table, a fresh perspective, new ideas, and a different kind of representation for the town. I knew as someone planning to live here for the rest of my life that I was really invested, and while completely being aware that I had no experience running in town, I knew that my background was valuable, and that I'm a strong believer in the fact that if you think you're going to be good at something, you should do it. So here I am. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is that over the past years, I started learning more and really diving into the community. I started reaching out with people on social media, and I really wanted to provide people with education and resources, and I really tried to connect to people in our community because social media exists, and sometimes opinions become facts, and I found that disconnect. Generally, I found that people are very interested in what's going on in our town, but if they don't have that right to your fingertips type of grasp on the community, they become less engaged. So something that I did some research on, trying to figure out if we could come up with a low-cost solution to this problem. How can we get our residents more engaged, actively involved in what's going on in Goffstown? In that research, I found out that the town of Goffstown would be eligible to hire an AmeriCorps member. So for $5,000 a year, we could have a young Spitfire straight out of college coming here to do things like community engagement, development plans, social media, execution, financial resources, grant writing. The list goes on and on of all these things that somebody can do. I think if we're looking to the future of Goffstown, we have to start doing these things proactively, and something as simple as a community assessment to figure out how our residents want information and how they're going to accept it is something really important. And it's little things that we can do to start proactively making these changes. In my professional career, like I said, I work at Human Resources in Elliott Hospital. I've run countless nonprofits, been on board of directors, and run small businesses. And I look at the town in a very similar perspective. Knowing a lot about government helps with a minor in political science. But we have to be finding ways to consistently become better. We have to look towards the future and look for things that can be done in the most cost-effective way. I believe that there are opportunities, quick little things that we can do to make huge improvements, potentially really big payoffs. I would really like to reinstate the Board of Selectmen's representative being present in each department, which is something we're not currently doing right now. I think that from an HR perspective, it would be a great tool for the Board of Selectmen to be consistently reviewed by the Board of Directors. So it's little things like that that we can be doing to start moving towards growth, to find out ways we can be more efficient, to make sure that our partnerships are strong. And these are the type of growth opportunities we need to be looking for. These ideas are just simple little changes that we can make. I don't want to get too in-depth about my other ideas and research because I feel like I've been talking forever. And also we have our debate coming up afterwards. But I've been working hard to make sure that all of my ideas also come with solutions. I'm looking forward to change in Goffstown, And I wanted to make sure that the reasons why I'm running aligns with the community needs. So I've been spending the past few weeks meeting with every single department head, talking about their vision and their wants and needs. I've been meeting with businesses and local organizations to talk about business development and community relationships. And this is the type of connection we need to be making. I've been sitting down with residents and hearing their perspective on things. And I want to make sure that we have an approachable, communicative way that we can reach our residents. So after I did all of that, I reflected and came to the conclusion that I am in fact on the right track. So I'm very confident that the board is someplace that I can be valuable. And, excuse me, I'm interested in bringing a fresh set of eyes to down the path that we've been going. I'm looking for the future of Goffstown and the best that we can be. I think that in a community of 18,000 people, we always need to be looking for ways to be more efficient and making small changes to be better. I'm confident that I can accomplish these things, and I hope you stick around for the debates afterwards, and I hope you'll consider giving me your vote on March 13th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Next is Mark Lemay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First off, I would like to thank Diane. Thank you for 444 years of marriage. If you didn't, I know, 444 years. As I was just introduced, my name is Mark Lemay. I would like to also echo the thoughts and comments. I would like to say thank you to the Goffstown Lions Club for this candidate tonight. I would like to say thank you to the Goffstown High School for allowing this event to take place here and making it possible. A little bit of a history and background about myself. I've lived in the town of Goffstown for 25 years or more. I've lived in that little quaint section they call Penardville, which at one time we tried to be a little city in ourselves, but it never happened, so we never separated. But Penardville is part of the town of Goffstown, and that's where I think some people kind of make a mistake sometimes. We need to all work together in this town. As I started to say, I've lived here for 25 plus years. I've been married for 44 years to my wife, my childhood sweetheart. We met in high school, and we have two children. My two children also live in this town, Goffstown, and are all very happy here. My grandchildren have gone through the school system. I think the school system is fabulous, one that we should be very proud of. Currently, I hold a position of call lieutenant as well for the town of Goffstown. I've been with the Goffstown Fire Department since 1986. I have worked at one point or one time in my career out of all three stations, stations 17, 18, and 19. 19 is I'll call my home base in Penardville, which is where I spend most of my time. Other accomplishments in my life, I have spent 34 years with the Manchester Fire Department. I am retired, and I'm kind of enjoying a semi-retirement because I still fulfill some of the devotion and the need I feel to help this community by working in the community as a call firefighter, and I fill shifts during the day, during the week, weekends, nights, holidays, in emergencies. I fill the shifts for the fire department, and I help make our town a safer place to live. Also, one of my great accomplishments in life, as Collis mentioned, I was awarded probably 10 years ago, if not more. Those of you that are familiar with Boy Scouting and Boy Scouts, I was awarded the Golden E Award. That Golden E Award is the highest award that can be honored and given to the members in the Boy Scouts of America. That was for spending almost 20 years with young adults and students in the fire service that wanted to become firefighters. We ran a Fire Explorer Academy in Concord with the help of the state of New Hampshire, and we've graduated well over 300 students at this time in the fire field. As I am standing here in front of you tonight, I'm looking for re-election to fill one of the two positions that are up for the Board of Selectmen this evening on the ballot. If elected, this will be my third term as selectman, which will give me a total of 9 years in that position. This year, it's an honor and a pleasure to sit as chair, as the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I'm currently seeking the seat to continue to move the town forward in a positive way and to work with the other board members of the Selectmen. For me, being a firefighter and kind of taking a different approach on life, I believe in the team spirit and the team accomplishment in life. And I look forward to accomplishing the goals that I have set forth for myself and every year with the board. It's not just one member. It's 4 members of the board that sit together. We work very hard, and we always try to do what's best for the town. Sometimes it works in our favor. Sometimes it does not always work in our favor. But we always try to do what is best for the town of Goffstown when it is done and over with. Some of my interest in some of the committees that I have sat on in my time, I have sat on the Economic Development Committee for the last 2 years. Thanks to Charlie Tentis, it's been a very good ride. We work very well together, and I feel that we have, together with the group, done some very positive things for this town, and we've moved the town forward in a positive manner. I currently as well sit on the a rep for the Selectmen's rep currently in my second year. We discuss the infrastructure as well in town. I feel that the infrastructure in this town is something that always needs to be adjusted, always needs to be looked at all of the time. If we do not have a good infrastructure, and I'll say one thing, the firehouse. We had a very small, shabby, rundown firehouse before. The firehouse was not in the best of shape. Didn't have enough room to put fire apparatus, didn't have enough room for sleeping quarters, didn't have enough room for a lot of things. It had asbestos in it, and it had a number of things in it. By sitting on this committee, doing what's best for the town, we did, I think, a pretty damn good job at getting a real good firehouse in town for the members of the fire department, and most importantly, the people that live in this town of Goffstown. I also look at the infrastructure. I'm looking forward to trying to bring the natural gas line further up Mast Road into the center of town. I'm looking for sewerage. I'm looking for water. I'm looking for electricity. All of these things are the infrastructure that is needed to make this place a stronger place to work, live, and play, and have our children grow up safe. The roads are a very important part. As we know, if we don't have good roads, people don't travel through our towns, so we need to have good roads. We have a good plan in place that we look at roads, we assess roads every year, and we make sure that we continually address the roads that are needed to be corrected and worked with. Other things that I kind of look forward to and I like to be part of, we have grants that are available in this town to the community all of the time. I'm kind of a grant hunter. I've worked with the fire chief. I've worked with our former town administrator, Sue DeRusso, and I've worked with a couple other groups in town to look for these grants so that we can help defray the cost of any of the projects that we have currently going on in town. And by defraying the cost, it lowers our taxes and everybody is happy. Things that I've accomplished in my 6 years, okay, one of them is keeping our taxes low. I've worked, not by myself, but with the other members, Collis, Peter, and David, to try to work together to keep our taxes down. We work very hard and diligently to work together to come up with a good game plan. By working together, we accomplish our goals. If you think it's, I did this, I did that, it's not I. It's we as a group did this, and I feel we is very important to stress here. We need to have a good working understanding of the group. I have sat on the negotiation committee for 2 years for the Goffstown Police Department and the dispatchers for multi-year contracts. Keeping in mind, I want to be fair to the people that work for us in the community, but yet I also want to be fair to the taxes and the residents in the town of Goffstown, so we don't create any spikes in our taxes. I've sat on the Budget Committee for 1 year. I've sat on the Parks and Rec Committee for 1 year. I've sat on the CIP Committee for 1 year. If I'm elected to this term, I will be excited to bring new opportunities. I'm always looking forward for new opportunities and potentially new positive ideas to the town of Goffstown so that we can make this place a better place to live. And most importantly, as we grow old, think of the future and think of our children that are here in this town that are going to be here, and we need to make it a better place for them to live. So in closing, I say thank you very much for coming out this evening to spend the time with us. I look forward to speaking to anybody at any point in time. If you're interested, contact me, call me, and I will do whatever it needs to be done. Once again, thank you very much. Please vote for Mark LeMay on March 13th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Next is Richard Manzo.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start by thanking, as the other candidates did, everyone for coming out tonight. I feel that local government is an extremely important facet of our lives. We definitely need, especially citizen oversight, but oversight from the Board of Selectmen over all of our other town boards. And I also want to thank the Lions Club, GTV, and the library for putting this whole event together. I moved here back my first year before I entered the middle school. So I've been here for pretty much every formative year of my life. The first thing I did when I got here was I started working towards charitable pursuits. Just this past year, I worked within the high school I led a couple of separate charity events that in total raised about $1,000 for charity. We operated on an extremely small budget of about $25 to put together a toy drive and a bake sale. So I'm well versed in using a very small budget to deliver quality goals. Secondly, I was always involved within the athletic department here at the high school. I actually played football for a year. I unfortunately got injured, and then I managed the football team the year that we ended up going undefeated and winning the state championship. So that also gave me an insight into how things run on an extremely small budget while, again, delivering quality results. And that brings me to my first point. I want to make sure that the town is always looking for new and innovative ways to lower the tax burden while still delivering those quality results. That means making sure that every single penny of the taxpayer's dollar is accounted for and has a clear and concise and fleshed out plan for what we're going to do with that money. Secondly, I wanted to move back to that point about oversight. I want to make sure that every single penny that we spend is spent on something that is absolutely necessary for the town. That means safety, roads, and most importantly, just making sure that it's very clear that you are receiving the dividends from that. Lastly, one thing I wanted to bring up was making sure that all of our safety institutions, such as the fire station and the police stations, are fully manned around the clock. I was somewhat concerned recently to learn that the fire stations are not fully manned at night. Someone said at the town meeting that they wouldn't have moved here had they known that. I'm sure the man brought his family, potentially children, with him. So I could see how that would be a major concern. That's something that I definitely want to see addressed, and again, in a completely cost-effective manner, hiring firefighters to man the stations, making sure that everyone is safe from all threats against property and human life. Lastly, there's a number of planning issues that I would like to see addressed. I heard that there was an article brought forward that would add funds to a land purchase program that there is currently no plan to be used for. I want to make sure that the unassigned funds that we have are actually being used towards programs that would benefit the people as opposed to something hypothetical. So I want to thank you all again for coming out here tonight and vote for Richard Manzo on March 13th. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? You guys did a great job, I guess. Okay. Want to thank all of you.
Thank you.
All right. Please be seated. Thank you. All right, next, if we could have everyone who is here this evening, who is running for Budget Committee, come up and have a seat, please. Okay. Yeah. What we were going to do is take that last seat away, and here's how you get elected. We're going to start the music. It was. Don't give us any ideas, David. Okay. All right. First, I'd like to call to the microphone Eileen McNinney.
Good evening. Okay, so the first thing I'll let you know is I didn't expect to be first. Okay? Not what was in my intention. Good evening. I want to thank you all for being here, and I appreciate everybody's efforts. I have been, I'm going to give you a little bit about me because I've not been involved in official politics, I should say. Although I've worked for a lot of very large companies, and that's kind of unofficial politics. My name is Eileen, obviously McNinney. I've lived here in Goffstown for about 12 years, and until recently, I was in a position where I traveled a lot and worked nonstop, so I really didn't have a lot of time to devote to doing anything other than kind of working and taking care of the dogs and sleeping. I've kind of pushed back for a couple of reasons, but I guess you could say semi-retired, although I don't really like admitting to that quite yet. And I decided I really wanted to kind of do something and give back a little bit to the community for a couple of reasons. And I'm going to tell you kind of a little teeny-weeny short story of why. About a year ago, I was offered a really, really great job, and I really do mean a phenomenal job. And it was everything I'd wanted in my career. I've had about 32 years in retail and buying, managing very large percentages of companies. This was the dream job, except for one thing. It was in Kansas. So I don't know if you guys are on commuting, but it's not a really great commute. The company I was working for was very generous. They agreed to let me come home every other week for a 3-day weekend. They actually paid for me to do that, so I would have an opportunity, because I point blank said I'm not leaving New Hampshire. So we worked it out, and I found myself sitting in Kansas going, it's the Pumpkin Festival, and I'm not there. And then I found myself going, you guys are not going to believe this, it's the first snowstorm, and I'm not there. I know that one's really hard to believe at this point, right? Except that I realized what I was realizing was what I was missing was walking into Sully's and seeing neighbors, or I live on Gorham Pond Road, so my neighbors are not real close. Sometimes when I see them come in, they turn the light on, I turn the light on from across the road, and we know that we've connected. And I also know if I need them at any single moment, I can pick up the phone, I can go on the computer, or I could probably walk out to my front door and scream, and I know I would have help. And I also can tell you that I was sitting outside of Kansas City going, I didn't have any of that. And I made a really hard decision. I made a hard decision that give up the dream job and come back to a place where I have decided is now home, and that's here. And I decided when I made that decision that if I was going to do that, then I needed to sort of put my money where my mouth was and try to give something back and be a part of the community that I was really enjoying and I was really missing. So I have, I'm kind of one of those people that's a little bit analytical and a little bit creative. So I will tell you that one of the first things I did when I got back is I talked to Kathy Ball about going on to and worked with, and I've joined the Historical Commission. I have an undergraduate degree in architecture with an emphasis in history. So that was kind of appropriate, and that kind of fulfills my creative bent. And originally I wasn't going to go on the budget committee. I was going to wait, and I know the whole elected thing really scared me. And then I decided that was really the wrong approach. In my 32 years in retail, I've run businesses that have been in excess of $100 million. I can read a P&L and a balance sheet like most people read a newspaper. That's my expertise. That's what I'm very good at, and I think for that reason, I've got the strength and the ability to bring that to the Budget Committee. So that's kind of where I ended up, is a little bit of my creative side goes to the Historical Commission, and I'm really looking forward to getting involved in the budget part of the committee, because I think it is the future, and I think it's one of the more important things that we do is making sure that the things that we need and the things that keeps the integrity of our town complete are really well thought out and well put in place. And that's what I'm looking to do, and that's where I want to be involved. So, thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Next is Joe Alexander Jr.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Alexander. I'm 23 years old. I just recently moved to Goffstown. So I was just graduated from St. Anselm College in 2017. So I was here for 4 years. I grew in love with Mass Road. I grew in love with traveling to Apotheca and doing my studying there, maybe having a drink or two at the Village Trestle, things like that. So I grew to love the Goffstown area. So that's why 6 months ago I made the decision to purchase my first home in Goffstown. So because of that, I feel like I have a responsibility to help the residents of Goffstown and make sure taxes stay low. So my parents taught me at a young age to make sure that we go without things that we want, but we never go without things that we need. And that's kind of the policy I'm going to institute on the Budget Committee. So I look forward to working on the Budget Committee and making sure that we are responsible with what we're spending our money on, but also make sure that residents don't go without things they need. So thank you very much. I look forward to working on the committee and ask for your vote on March 13th. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next is Cole Reel.
Hi. First off, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and taking the time to get informed. I want to thank the Lions Club and the library for facilitating this event tonight. A little bit about myself. My name's Cole Reel. Lifelong Goffstown resident, recent graduate from UNH Manchester. And after I graduated, I found myself wanting to give back to a community that has given me so much throughout my life and enabled me to stand where I am today. So that involved some volunteer work here in town, and it also involved applying to and being appointed to fulfill a vacancy on the Budget Committee this past year pretty early on in the budget process. I had a great time working with others on the Budget Committee this past year, taking the time to really get to know how the town I've lived in my whole life operates, getting to talk with department heads, tour the facilities in town, and really figure out what we need. And also, I think it's really important. Everybody on the Budget Committee this year definitely was concerned about what we need. And we also took a lot of time to think about the future needs of our town and where we need to go to excel as a community, and make sure we have a pretty good quality of life here in Goffstown. And the one thing that would see that diminish is if we are complacent and we do not look towards the future. So there's a lot of work that we still have to do. As a Budget Committee, we started a lot of important work this year. And I think what we saw with the school situation that happened is we kind of have a need to go forward with a little bit more care than we have in the past, and everybody's going to need to really dive into the numbers. I've reviewed the budget this year line by line, asked about places where I had concerns. I made Rick, head of Park and Rec, come up to the table and answer a question about the office supplies line. So that's the kind of detail that you're getting from me as a Budget Committee member. Very happy to hear this is an uncontested race, so I'm looking forward to working with these two. I I think, and Budget Committee, really, it gives you a great view of everything that's going on in our town. I was very fortunate to serve this past year, and I look forward to continuing my service. I ask for your vote on March 13th. And once again, thank you all for taking the time to get informed tonight. The decisions that happen on the local level are the most important and affect your life more than anything else. So one of the most responsible things you can do is get informed and show up to vote on March 13th. So I thank you all for doing that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cole. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, thank you. And I know there were some people who came in late, so just so I don't miss anyone, is the candidate for cemetery trustee here? Okay. All right. Next is library trustee. Okay. No, you can stand right here. Sean Buckland.
First off, thank you all very much for coming out today. I think the Lions Club puts on a great event here. It's extremely important for Goffstown to be informed of the candidates. And also thank you to Goffstown TV as well for broadcasting this live. I, similar to a couple of the other candidates, don't have a lot of political experience, so this is my first endeavor into the political field. A little bit about myself. I've been a lifetime Goffstown resident, been here for close to 30 years now, and been through the school system. It's actually a little nostalgic being in this library, because I haven't been here in more years than I want to admit. And then I got my biochemistry degree at St. Anselm College, and went on to get my doctorate in pharmacy. And just because I like to delve into multiple fields of learning, I am currently working on a business degree at Southern New Hampshire as well. I feel like the Board of Trustees for the Public Library is an appropriate place for me to start out, and because for me, I've always thought that education starts with reading, and the library, from everything I've seen in my entire life, has been an incredible experience to see all the events that they put on for children to try to further the education of all of our Goffstown residents as well. They put on a tremendous number of activities, and I was able to sit with Diane in one of the trustee meetings recently to see the events that they sponsor, and it really is commendable, the work that the library does with, again, I'm sure, very limited funds. So you guys do a great job with what you have available to you, so that's something I just want to applaud. I look forward to being able to work with the Board of Trustees on a personal level. I've known a few of them for a lot of my life, and I would be very happy to be able to assist in the growth and development and the furthering of such a historic building that we have, and a program that's been such a long-standing tradition in this town of Goffstown. Again, I just want to say thank you very much for everybody's time and coming out and getting informed. I look forward to speaking with some of you after the event as well.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Are there any questions for Sean? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, next is the planning board. If we could have all candidates who are running for planning board, please come up and have a seat. Okay, and we will start with Timothy Redmond.
Thank you, Ken. As everyone else has, thanks to the Lions Club for putting on this event tonight. It's very important for people to get to know us. My name's Tim Redmond. I live on Stinson Road. I've lived up there with my wife and children. They're both grown now for over 20 years. I have been an elected or an appointed member of the planning board for in excess of 12 years now. I've also served as the chair and the vice chair of the planning board in past time. I believe that longevity on town boards is very important. I won't say we make mistakes, but sometimes we make mistakes. And if you're a long-term member of the board, you can see where you've made omissions and errors, and you can make attempts to correct those in the future so that we do the best job possible as elected officials here in town. I believe that the longevity is an asset to the taxpayers in this town. One thing I'd stress is complete and fair hearings for all of the applicants who come forward to the planning board. They all have the right to present their case and be heard completely and fairly so that they get a fair shake with the board and try to get the best decision possible for both the applicant and the taxpayers, because ultimately we serve the taxpayers. As a planning board member, I've chaired the CIP process here in town for in excess of 10 years. For those of you who don't know what CIP is, it's the Capital Improvement Committee. We start with all the department requests and committee requests for expenditures for the upcoming years. And it's our charge as planning board members and citizen volunteers on the committee, as well as budget committee members, school board member, and selectmen's representative, to try to put all those large requests, sometimes in excess of $5 million, into a matrix to prevent large spikes in our tax rates here in town and to spread the requirements and the needs over a 7-year period of time. It's a tough job because you have to say no to some people sometimes, or you have to move their projects out. But we have goals, and we have guide, we have the master plan, and we have a whole different set of guides that we go by. So we do have rules, and we do our best to try to accommodate people, but sometimes we have to say no. From there, it moves on to the budget committee, and then ultimately to the Board of Selectmen, and then the voters. I've enjoyed serving the town of Goffstown these many years as a planning board member. I've also served as a 3-year member of the Economic Development Council. I'm presently an elected member of the Sewer Commission. I volunteered my time at Goffstown Junior Baseball for field construction many, many years. My son went through the junior baseball program. I've also volunteered my time at the Babe Ruth place at Allard Park when we reconstructed the entire field, built dugouts, put the new backstops up, and made the field much more professional for the kids to play on. And back to what Collis mentioned earlier, the Glen Lake improvements, I volunteered my time down there on that project to create what Collis stated, and I believe is a statement, is a beautiful place now, what was filthy and just very poorly maintained and poorly organized, and it's a real asset to the community. So I'd like to say thank you for this time, for me to step up and talk, and I ask you to vote for me on March, whatever the date is, I don't even know what it is, 13th, in the town election. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. And next up, Jan Soderquist.
Hi, I'm Jan Soderquist. We've lived here in Goffstown for 40 years. Have a wonderful husband who's on the budget committee, and 2 adult children, one of which lives in New Hampshire, the other is now living in Florida. We have enjoyed the richness of growing with this community, with our family and with the community at large. I have spent most of my adult life in the medical equipment business associated with people with severe disability. And running a family-owned business and being involved at state levels with regard to funding issues and various legislative issues associated with people with disability. I've also served on a number of boards for Granite State Independent Living, for the Nashua Center for the Multiple Handicapped, very involved with Easter Seals and the Muscular Dystrophy Association. I come to you admittedly with 0 experience for the planning committee. I want to be actively involved, and not to fear that I'm not going to talk all night. I just, for the fun of it, ran this off, some information off of the web on the budget committee and said, oh, Goffstown Groundwater Protection Plan, 122 pages. Anyway, my intent is good. My experience directly with this project is minimal. My experience with life, with conservatism, with interest, with perseverance, with determination, and with commitment once I become part of something is very sincere. I am grateful for the people that took the time to put this event together. Even small local events like this take a lot of individual time. I understand those things very well, and I'm very grateful to the Lions Committee and to Ken's call. Although he got our answering machine, it was a very warm message, and I appreciate the personal touch that he put into that. I want to be a contributing member of this community. I have been a contributing, very active member with the state in general. We serve over 17,000 clients in the state of New Hampshire. I am conservative by nature, but I also have a very enthusiastic and creative side to me. I can listen, and that is what I intend to do under the guidance of Barbara Griffin. I'm sure I will spend a fair amount of time listening and learning, and it will be a great opportunity if you choose to vote for me in March. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having this event.
Thank you, Jan. Are there any questions for Jan or Tim? All right, thank you to both. Before we continue on, actually, I want to thank all the candidates for doing something very, very special. A number of the candidates that I spoke to, I let them know, the date, the time. They knew that. They'd also received a letter. Doing any special date in New England is the ultimate case of rolling the dice. Anything from end of October to any time in April, you know what can happen. So I asked the candidates, I said, let's hope that we have a nice day. So you guys are great, because you got a 60-degree day today. So congratulations. If you don't do anything else, that was fantastic what you guys did for today, so thank you. The other thing I want to mention also, which I think it's great to see, and speaking with Diane and I were having a conversation, we're very lucky in this town for a couple of reasons. There are a lot of people, candidates, who came up here and you heard about their experience that they bring to the town, the many committees they've served on, how long they have been here. And experience is a great asset to have. Any successful business has experienced people there. What also makes it successful is the fact there are other people who are willing to step up, who are basically new at this, and willing to step forward and to also serve the town. So I want to say thanks to the people who have done this for years, and also those people who are stepping forward to make Goffstown a great place to live. So it's very well appreciated. We can give everyone a hand on that. All right, next, this is my hardest job of the night right now. The Sewer Commissioner, Rob Trapez. Okay, I'm done.
Actually, the hardest part is to have him spell it.
It's okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Lions Club, Goffstown High School, and the library for putting on this event and allowing all the candidates to introduce themselves. My name is Rob Trapez, and I'm seeking endorsement for my second term on the Sewer Commission. I have a civil engineering degree from the University of New Hampshire. I'm also a professional engineer registered in the state. I have over 22 years' experience in the water and wastewater field, half of which in consulting and the other half in commercial endeavors. I've lived in Goffstown for 10 years with my wife and 2 children who attend Mountain View Middle School. We call Goffstown home, and one of the great things about being involved in local government is the ability to apply my skills to the town that we live in and to home. It can't be more important than that. I wasn't planning on speaking much about what the sewer commission does, but I realize sitting here and listening to people talk that there's a unique perspective that people in public utilities have to have. Growing up, a good friend of mine had a 1976 Dodge Dart Swinger. And just about every weekend, they were in the garage working on this thing up through 1996 or so. And, it made me think, most of the infrastructure that is in, or started in our town, came from the Safe Drinking Water Act from the 70s. So raise your hands, how many people drive a Dodge Dart from 1976? Our infrastructure has to work every day. Pumps have to pump without fail. A lot of the pipes originally put in the street were made of clay. And there's a lot of work to be done, and it's work that is not seen by anybody. Everybody talks about roads. Roads are important. Everybody, wants to travel smoothly through town, but everything has to flow under the streets and get ultimately to a treatment plant where it can be properly disposed of. And it's a unique perspective. My experience, I think, enables me to benefit the town, and I enjoy doing it, and I look for your support in March. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor, the checklist here. No, okay, for a 6-year term and 4-year term, no one is here for that? Okay. Town moderator? Okay. Trustee of trust funds. I know Melanie is here.
Hobble up here. It's a sports injury, I swear. Hi, thank you all for coming today, and thank you for having this opportunity for us. My name is Melanie Renfrew-Hebert. Some of you may have seen my signs when I ran for political office in the last election, or the cute pictures of my kids I put on everything rather than my own face. And you'll see, again, I don't have my own face in here. I'm not a long-term resident of Goffstown. Rather humbled to sit in the audience as a voter and as a resident and listen to the wealth of experience we have running the town, working in the town, and living in the town, and providing us with all of this rich history that we can draw on, experiences that we can look back to in figuring out where we want to go from here. I am from Manchester. Took me a long time to admit that, having moved there from New York. But I lived there for 35 years, and what changed and made me come to Goffstown was my children. I had a young child, and I said, I want to go somewhere where it's a smaller community, a very invested community, and with a good school district, because my children needed special education. And so we bought a home in Goffstown, right behind the Clerk lights in the back of the Family Dollar. So the sun rises about an hour earlier behind our house. So we've lived here for about 5 years, and I've had a chance to become active in the school with my son in the Parent Association, to become active in scouting, Boy Scouting, which I never thought I'd be involved in, and yet here I am, the den leader for Lions, the brand-new den of scouts. Kindergartners, by the way, so don't be too envious. I came to Goffstown with a doctorate in community economic development, a master's in policy and development, an MBA, and a degree in accounting. It's a lot, but GED to PhD was my path there, and I'm very devoted to community development and community enrichment. And I'm running today for trustee of the trust fund in order to help make sure that funds are monitored, regulated according to how they are legally allowed to be, and that they are given out in a timely and appropriate manner. You guys all do wonderful things in the planning boards and within the town, making sure that projects that are necessary The funds are set aside, and I want to make sure that these things can be handled in a time-appropriate manner. Again, I'm living in Goffstown now for 5 years, but I plan to be here for the rest of my children's lives so that they can take care of me as I live in Goffstown. And I'm looking for your support. I'm looking to all of you not only as someone who is running for an office, but as a voter as well. And I'll be sure to be there on March 13th and voting and looking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Some people just can't wait to get up here. I know. And for this office is a trustee of trust funds, Scott Gross.
Thank you, Ken. I'm still waiting for that joke, so, but I'm not going to state mine, So my name is Scott Gross. I have the pleasure of knowing many of you, and I too was it's very nice to see so many new people who are running for office, as well as many incumbents who have a wealth of experience. It's really what I think makes Goffstown such a vibrant community. So my name is Scott Gross, and I have served for many years as a selectman, school board member, budget committee, a whole lot of different committees. So the big question is, like, why the trustee of the trust funds? Because I want to work with you, basically. And no, actually, I look at that role, and it's not the most prolific, an exciting type of job, but it's a very important one because it manages the funds are about $2.5 to $3 million, and encompasses things like cemetery perpetual care all the way to high school scholarship funds to capital reserve funds, and it's very important. As you mentioned before, that the disbursements are done on a timely basis and that the money is being managed in a professional way, and there's a lot of oversight. And that's kind of what I've done for many years on the different boards that I have served. So with that, I ask for your vote on Election Day, and I got it under a minute, I bet, right? All right, I was going for that.
Thank you, Scott. Next is Zoning Board of Adjustment, Chet Bowen.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. Again, thank you to the Goffstown Lions Club, GTV, and the Goffstown High School for facilitating this event. My name is Chet Bowen, as mentioned. About 2 years ago, I moved here with my wife and 2 children. One is 5 and one is almost 2 years old. Happy birthday, buddy. And we came here because we came to Goffstown to look at a few homes, and we really fell in love with the community right away. And I had always said that if I moved to a community and I decide I'm settling here, that I would immediately start to look for volunteer opportunities to serve the community in some way. So almost immediately I started looking for said opportunities. For just over a year, I've been on the Economic Development Council, and I have recently filled in the past few months a space on the zoning board. I've really enjoyed my time on both the Economic Development Council and the zoning board. I think they both provide a lot of educational opportunities for me as I'm learning more about how this town works, and I've been very excited about that. I came to Goffstown from Boston. Thought that, as many people in urban environments do, thought I maybe would never come back to a small town environment, but as I said, fell in love pretty quickly. I attained a Master of Science degree in counseling psychology, but it was during that time in graduate school that I started to become very interested in local, state, and national politics. And that's when I decided that I would certainly look to volunteer. I currently also serve as the president of the board on a place called Upreach. It provides equine therapy for those with developmental delay or acquired brain injury. And I currently work as an executive director, also known as state director, for a human services agency that also serves individuals with developmental delay, acquired brain injury, and mental health. So my history of mental health, I used to work as a clinician for children, some with dual diagnosis, some that came in with some severe mental health issues from issues in the home, etc. So what I'm trying to get across is that I enjoy serving. I enjoy trying to make things better as much as I can. What I'm hoping to bring, and what I like to believe about myself, is that I have an understanding and appreciation of nuance. And that I also feel comfortable in a gray area. Many people come to the zoning board looking for an adjustment for one reason or another, and I like to really consider all the critical points each and every time as they put the effort in to come to the board and ask for that adjustment. I also like to think I understand the human condition and the victories and the struggles that go with that, and I like to bring that into any position that I would take in town. So I'm running unopposed, but I would still very much love for everyone to come out on March 13th and check off that box. Thank you.
Thank you, Chet. Next, if I could have everyone who is running for school board member, please step forward and have a seat. Okay, if we could start with Janine McKinnon.
Hello, and excuse me, I have a cough, so I'll put this up here. Thank you to everyone who set up the forum tonight so that we have an opportunity to speak to people. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm much more comfortable sitting around a table talking instead of sitting up in front of people and speaking to you there. So if I do I'm really sorry. I grew up in Goffstown, being born at Moore General Hospital, which probably a lot of you have no clue what Moore General Hospital is, but lived here with my family. And our family, my mom and dad, really felt education was very important and gave us that love of education and love of learning. And I have grown up here. I have been married for 41 years to Mike McKinnon. We have 3 wonderful students children who have all gone through Goffstown High School and all the other schools. I also have a child whose birthday is today. Very odd, 2 in the same day. I started volunteering in the schools in the library in 1979. The Goffstown Mothers Club started the school libraries. We had no school libraries before that, and they bought the books. And the mothers came in and ran the library. And I decided that I would come in when my children were first born and would find out about the education process and just know what was going on so that when my children came to school, I would be familiar and they would have a good set-off when they came to school. Something I am proud of is I was instrumental in when things started changing for women and women were going to work and didn't have a whole lot of time to go out in the evening for clubs. I was instrumental in saving the Mothers Club from going down, and that club now is in its 75th year. We just celebrated, and allowing women in Goffstown to network and to continue the incredibly important community service that they have been doing for 75 years. So I'm just proud of that. I enjoyed volunteering and learning more about the educational process with ongoing volunteering throughout the years of my children's time in Goffstown. I was asked to fill a position on the school board and felt that this would be a good way to give back to the community that has given so much to my family. I think it is important to give back to one's community for all that the community gives to a family. I feel education is the instrument that all students find what skills and interests and the thing that makes them feel special to assist them in finding their path to success in their adult life. I've felt that it's important to offer them different options in our school system. The different things that hits each individual student, to make sure that they find what brings them forth, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's science, whether it's engineering, so that they find that thing that keeps them in school, keeps them engaged, and even though they're not necessarily going to be an academician, they always find that thing that ties them to school and brings them forth into a career that oftentimes they never knew that they would have. I bring experience, having been on the board for quite a few years. I'm fiscally responsible while considering the need for our students to have an equal footing with their peers. I'm very safety conscious, and I'm frequently pushing forward safety improvements for our faculty and students and reminding them to continue on with our ongoing projects, especially in the light of what's been going on recently in our communities, to make sure that our schools are the safest they can be for our faculty and students. I've served on the C&E committee, and I'm knowledgeable regarding curriculum and development and timelines, necessity for looping between schools and our towns for transitions for our students. I'm a pediatric nurse who has had experience working with children and their developmental needs for many years. I've worked in schools with special ed and typical classrooms with students in many school districts and have insights into other schools, district staffing policies and curriculums. I also have home-to-school experience, which many students giving insights that many people don't have, that helps make the connections that are important in students' lives. I would like to continue my service to the school board, and I'm hoping for your vote in March. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ginny. Next is Jared Talbot.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the Lions Club, GTV, the school, the members that actually came here today, as well as those that are streaming online and watching us through GTV, either presently or at a later date. My name is Jared Talbot. I have been a resident of Goffstown now for about 8 years. My wife and I have been married for 10 years, and we started out actually in Pinardville. We rented behind St. A's, and it got pretty rowdy over there when the Patriots and the Red Sox were always winning, with all the fireworks and everything else going off. That's when we decided to move, and we moved to the other side of Goffstown, right off of Parker Station Road. And we really love it there. We have 3 kids. We have twin boys that are currently in Glen Lake. They're just starting their adventure. And we have an 8-month-old daughter that wants to go to school with her big brothers, which is always fun. A little bit about me. I am a program manager working for a defense contractor in southern New Hampshire. A lot of my job is dealing with budgets, stakeholders, making sure that we have the appropriate scope in delivering solutions for our business partners and with the U.S. government. I hold an international certification for project management experience through the Project Management Institute. There are about 800,000 of us in the world, about 600,000 of us in the United States. But this is a international recognition that the government uses to actually ensure that we're delivering our projects on time, within budget, with certain constraints that are applied to that. Additionally, I'm also an adjunct faculty member at the University of New Hampshire. I teach at the Paul School of Business. Usually it's the freshmen and sophomores, so I see firsthand those individuals that are coming out of high school, what their skill sets are, sometimes what their skill sets may be lacking, and giving them additional guidance on how to get on track. I believe I'm uniquely qualified to work with my peers on the school board so that we can develop a vision and develop a roadmap that's very important for our students, to make sure our students have what they need, not only for right now to develop their creativity, but as well as ensuring that they have the skill set for the next generation of our economy that's going to be occurring. I know that we're transitioning from a manufacturing industry to a service industry, And I want to make sure that our students have that skill set so that they can be successful and they can continue to flourish in this great town. I ask for your vote, not necessarily for myself, but also for our schools. I do know how to work with individual people. I know that there are sometimes several, I don't want to say infighting, but definitely some hiccups that occur within our boards, school board being one of them sometimes. I want to make sure that we can work together, set the common goals that we have, and make sure that we develop that accountability and transparency on what our decisions are, why we're making them, and ensuring that our students, our staff, and most importantly, our community is getting what they need at the tax rate that they deserve. I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared. And next is Ellen from Markowitz.
Hello, everyone. I do have a cold as well. Brought water with me. I'm Ellen Vermakowitz, candidate for school board. My husband and family have lived here in Goffstown for almost 40 years. And obviously, our sons have gone through the Goffstown school system. Tonight, I'd like to answer 2 questions for you. Why am I running, and why should you vote for me? I am running now for a very similar reason to why I got involved in our schools and community some 35 years ago. Back then, my sons were about to enter public schools, and I found, to my great surprise, that we didn't have kindergarten, and we didn't have art and music in our elementary schools. A group of parents, quite a few of us, Jenny was among them, and her husband Mike, and Kathy Ball, and many others, became quite an active group of parents and made quite a few, what I think we'd all think, very positive changes for our children in the school system. This time, I'm running, I'm happy to say, my granddaughters are at Glen Lake Kindergarten. So I thought, well, Ellen, time to get back into it. So here I am. I have a proven track record here in Goffstown of accomplishments within our school district. Everything from being one of the founding parents of PFT at Maple Ave and MVP at Mountain View, being the founding person of our Maple Ave and Mountain View award-winning volunteer programs, to serving on our school board for 10 years. I also served on our budget committee. As a school board member, I did chair the board. I chaired the SAU board. I served on all the standing subcommittees of the board while chairing the Planning Communications Committee, which was designed to communicate with and make sure we give information to the public. We received national recognition from the National School Board Association for our efforts. I was instrumental in the rewriting and updating of the school board's policy manuals. Being an active member of our education and curriculum committees, 2 things that came out of those years of service that I can recall was advanced placement classes at our high school and bringing in kindergarten. I served on the Mountain View Building Committee, High School Renovation Project, the Kindergarten Committee. I also served on our Finance Committee, keeping close watch on our budgets and our spending. I have never been one to sit on a board and just keep the seat warm. I am active. I study, I ask questions, and I bring information forward. I think it is very important that we as board members and as a board communicate with the public. And I want to hear from you and the parents and our staff from time to time. I am a teacher. I have a master's degree and 3 certifications, elementary ed, special ed, and special ed administration. I am passionate about educating our children. I am very concerned about what's going on in schools across our country. Again, one of the reasons I want to get back involved. Excuse me. I know that every single one of our children deserves to be in a school that is not only safe, but bully-free, and in classrooms that are not constantly disrupted by chronic behavior issues, and to be with teachers who are well-trained in meeting the needs of all the children in the class. Not an easy task, I can tell you. I also know that money is not the answer to every problem. There are many aspects to education that all board members and our community need to scrutinize and ask about and come to solutions about together. I feel privileged to have been able to live in this community for a long time. My children stayed here. My grandchildren are growing up here in this town. I have been able to serve it in the past, and I'd like the opportunity to serve Goffstown once again, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Next is Ian McCarty.
Hi, I'm Ian. In addition to the other thanks that everybody's given, I'd like to thank my wife for putting the kids to bed and bathing them tonight alone. I'm a speech and language pathologist. I've done that for over 10 years. I've worked extensively in education and special education. We chose this community based on the schools and the community, different people there. I worked at Maple Ave for a couple days last year. I generally private contract into schools and other organizations. So I have a unique perspective about some of the schools. I also have a strong understanding of due process and some of those other things, including special education law and administration. I think I'm able to identify some money that maybe we've left on the table and look at some of the practices that we're using in our schools and try to make them a little bit more effective. I appreciate that you've mentioned some of the disruptive behavior and things like that in classrooms. And it is important to be able to provide services to kids that are effective to them and also maintain what we need to legally in regards to not restricting those kids and finding the most cost-effective solutions for a lot of these things. I think that having provided those services to kids and seeing the school from an inside perspective, that I do bring some unique experience to the table. I do hope that you all vote for me for a school board, and I think that we have a lot of really strong candidates. This is going to be nice, and I think the school board needs active and strong members. So I do appreciate your time and everybody coming out this night. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Does anyone have any questions for anyone up here? Thank you. Is any of the, okay. Boy, mind readers tonight. Very good. Well, good to see you.
Thanks, I
Oh,
made it.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Duffy. I've lived in town since I was 28 years old. You can do the math.
Last year?
That's right. I moved here when I was 8 months pregnant with my oldest. Both of my, I have two daughters, both grown, and they both went through the Goffstown School District. I also have asthma, and I cough all the time. I also have an 8-year-old granddaughter who's currently a student at Maple Avenue. I'm running for re-election for the Goffstown School District Clerk. Many people probably don't know what that is, but once a year I come into action and I take the minutes at the school deliberative session, and then from there I prepare the ballot. So the ballot that you vote on at the polls is put together by me. With much help, great review by the administration, which I would like to thank Denise and Kathy for helping with everything that I do. And then during the year, I just have to sign some papers and things like that. So it's not very involved, but it uses my skills as a former minute taker, which I've done for a number of years when I was working many, many jobs. So I just fill in where I'm needed, and no one else ever seems to be interested in the position. I've been serving, I think, since the early 90s, so long time. I currently am the Planning and Economic Development Director for the town of Goffstown. I was hired a few months ago. Prior to that, I was the town planner for the town of Hooksett for a number of 10 plus years. I worked there for 24 altogether. Can't think of anything else. I served on the Master Plan Committee here in town. I've served as chair of the planning board. I served as chair of the zoning board, CIP committee. I've been around for a while, and I've tried to use my hours to volunteer where I'm needed and where I can help out. So I like to volunteer, and I like to see the people of the town. I'm especially grateful for the Lions Club for continuing with the event tonight. Every year they put their time into this, and I'm very grateful that there are several positions that are filled and have competition. You don't always see that every year, and I'm really glad to see more young people getting involved. I think that's great. So if I'm running unopposed, but if you can vote for me on I was going to say September, on March 13th, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. And next is James Raymond.
I'm Jim Raymond. I'm running for re-election as school moderator. Just as Joanne said, we have one show a year. The school moderator is responsible for running the annual school meeting. But the real role we play is Rodney and Kathy then draft us as assistant town moderators at all the town and state elections. So that's the hidden print when you get elected to this. And it's really Kathy's fault that I started doing this years ago when Larry Emerton stepped down. Both she and somebody on the school board called me and said, "Nobody's running, Jim, you have to do it." And I've been doing it ever since. But I guess it's important, the role of school moderator is important because that's the person who runs the school meeting in an efficient and fair manner. And I think we do that reasonably well. And as you train the town and the voters, it gets better over time, so I'd like to keep doing it. But what I really want to talk about is the importance of attending the school deliberative meeting and the town deliberative meeting. Some of us remember the good old days when there'd be 2,000 people there and there'd be an overflow room, and it was very passionate. Well, we've lost some of that with the Official Ballot Act, and I complain about it every year. But it's important to go for a few reasons. One, you get to hear from the proponents and opponents of the warrant articles the issues. If all you do is go and vote on voting day, you don't have to know anything. And that's dangerous in a local democracy. So you really need to go. Second, as we saw this year, you run the risk, the way the Official Ballot Act operates, a small group can amend an article. Now, it's designed to allow that, but as the number of people attending dwindle, you could imagine how a small group can seize control of a meeting. And that's dangerous for, again, local democracy. You need to have a critical mass of voters. Now, I'm speaking to the choir, I know that, but come anyway. The third is you get to see the people in action, and that's important. Fourth, you get to listen to Fred Plett's lousy jokes at the town meeting, so you should do that. I'm delighted to see as we look around, some of us have gray hair. Collis has other issues, but also a lot of young people here who have really good credentials. That's a good sign for our town. I'm glad to see you here. I hope there are more of you. So thank you for having this event. You may vote for me on Election Day. I'll win anyways, I think, but please come.
Okay, thank you, Jim. School District Treasurer, is anyone here for that? Is there anyone here who we did not call up or have a chance to speak? Any candidates? Okay. All right, before we tie things up, and again, I want to thank the Lions Club for having me do this. Actually, I think it's very important for all of you to know that about 3 weeks ago, my wife and I were sitting at home, very relaxed with our 2 dogs, when there was suddenly a knock on the door. And Mr. David Pierce was standing there about 7 o'clock at night and asked if I could do this again. And I immediately said yes. I enjoy doing this. I think it is very important that candidates get out and so the public can hear. And, it's just an important part of, like Jim said, it's an important part of democracy that everyone participates also. And I think also to let everyone know that to get out and vote on March 13th. That's very important to do that. I often say even if you know someone who is voting opposite of you, it is still important that they get out and vote. That is the most important thing, to go out and have your voice heard. I said this last year, I'll say it again because we deal with this quite a bit. You often hear somebody maybe complaining about something, and you say, well, you did get out and vote. And they say, well, no, I didn't get out and vote. Always let your voice be heard. So as an important date as this is and what we're doing here, I did promise Scott Gross I would have a joke for him tonight. So, as I have the past few years, this is about a candidate who goes to a reservation, and what he wants to do, he wants to try to get the Native American vote. And he's up there talking, and he says if you vote for me, I'm going to give you free education for life. The audience is enthusiastic. They start yelling, Hoya, Hoya, Hoya at him. And he thought, oh, this is great. I have these voters in the palm of my hand. He says, if you vote for me, I'm going to permanently lower your taxes. The audience is even more enthusiastic, yelling, Hoya, Hoya, Hoya. Candidate has a big smile on his face, and he says, I'm going to also let you build your own casino. You can keep all the money. Government will never have anything to do with it. Now they're on their feet chanting and yelling and screaming, Hoya, Hoya, Hoya. Candidate is very pleased with his speech, finishes his speech, wades into the audience, starts shaking hands and kissing babies. And he looks through a window and he sees there's a bunch of cattle not far from the building. So he says to his Indian guide, he says, I was raised on a ranch. He's always been interested in cattle. Do you mind if I step outside and maybe get a closer look? And the guide says, go right ahead. Just be careful you don't step in the Hoya. So anyway, closing on a nice note, a big smile. It's good everyone can laugh at themselves. But I don't know, David, if you had anything you wanted to add for this evening? Yeah?
I want to make a pitch for someone who wasn't here this evening, and that's we have a vacancy in the Budget Committee, 1-year position. And so whether you're at home watching this or somebody here, wonderful opportunity to gather together about 10 or 15 of your friends and family members and vote for a write-in. I always maintain the Budget Committee is a wonderful way to get a broad understanding of all the departments in our town, because the department chiefs will present their budget to the Budget Committee, and you learn a lot about the intricacies of running each department through the Budget Committee. And then you get a good understanding and you can branch out from there. So I make a pitch for that one position that's vacant. It's 1 year.
Do you have an individual?
Fred. Vote for Fred. Thank you, Ken.
Okay. Once again, want to thank all the candidates who were able to be here this evening for participating. Also want to remind you that following this, the Selectmen will be having a debate, which you're welcome to attend and listen to. I'm sure it'll be very interesting to hear what the four of them have to say as they question each other also. So again, I want to thank David, all the members of the Lions Club for making this possible, and Steve too. You've been very quiet, but I noticed you there. So everyone have a great evening, and please be safe. Take care.